Hi, I'm Mati from Z Prime. I wanted to do a little bit of a audience survey. So, who here considers themselves crypto native? Okay, cool. Who is crypto curious? And who's crypto skeptical? Right. Lovely. So, just very briefly on me and sort of the entity I represent and I've co-founded, so Z Prime Capital. We've been investing in crypto since early 2019, invested across all the verticals. And since 21, we've been active in DeSci. So these are some of our bags, things that we invested in. I actually forgotten something, so it might not be the whole portfolio. But yeah, we've been investing in DeSci. DeSci is very exciting to us as crypto investors, and essentially we've been at the inception of it when we funded Molecule back in 2021. And there are some reviews that we've received on us. So I would like to start by just breaking down the buzzwords. I don't like buzzwords, but I use them myself as well. So for the purpose of this, I would like to separate the D and the Sci part. So for the Sci part, for the science, I want to start with and I want to lead with is many use science as almost as a religious invocation. They're saying science is settled. And in my opinion, that's very counterproductive, and it goes against what I believe the science is. And I would want to anchor this presentation to David Deutsch's definition of science, which is quest for better explanations, which essentially rules out any ultimate truths or any dogmas. There are other frameworks for that, and it shouldn't be in science. Science has been supercharging human explanatory power for ages, or since Enlightenment, and it helped expand our knowledge base. And one belief that I hold and was inspired by David Deutsch is that knowledge is infinite. So it's always about the new replacing the old, and it's a constant process. There isn't any point of arrival where we can say something has been settled for good. So it's an ever evolving quest. Moving on to the D part, and officially it's decentralized, right? But I like to lovingly refer to the D part as degen. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the degen term, but in crypto we use it for like the degenerate gamblers, so people who are able just to buy any kind of shitcoin or meme coin to make money on it. But I redefine it as someone who gambles on the outcome of scientific experiment. So think of gambling as tinkering. Given that nothing is ever settled, knowledge is infinite, then gambling is an inseparable part of unlocking new knowledge. So I always, when I think of DeSci, I always have this Victorian era tinkerer in mind, someone like Michael Faraday, who were like, these guys were degening by not shying away from a risky experiment, having a lot of skin in the game, not only their own skin as in physically, but oftentimes funding themselves. So scientist was often an entrepreneur, and this was before the government took on the role of a major sponsor of science. So I see DeSci as experimental quest for better explanations. And maybe today science, mostly represented by academia, has gone too far from its origins its pioneering days of enlightenment, when it attracted more of a risk-taking characters rather than bureaucrats. And these guys had, passion for knowledge-seeking, and their opinions or their hypotheses were often controversial, and definitely out of consensus, but not for sake of being contrarian, just because they believed in their thesis. And I do feel that science today relies too much on politics, and on politics and rules, which we could say in a way constrain our ability to find new knowledge, to make it harder at least, and because it can sometimes foster too much power or too much obedience, which usually it's tied to state, and state sort of craves it. It makes it very hard. And when we look at the origins of science, it was in the era of enlightenment, it was actually about less power. It was about making it so that people aren't ruled as much, especially looking back at the Industrial Revolution in England. It was basically about extending certain privileges that were, that belonged to an exclusive class, and it was extended to sort of a broader crowd. And this is where we sort of like track the rapid economic progress and the age of scientific discovery. I do think that crypto and science have a great overlap, and back in the days when we entered this space by funding Molecule, I personally didn't think of like DeSci as a separate category. To me, it was like a natural fit, because crypto, I believe, promotes liberty, freedom, and scientific progress came from that, right? It came from the era of enlightenment, the era of freedom, given these two things are fundamentally in nature very similar, they definitely are interesting when you combine them. And crypto is great at bootstrapping capital. I think rapid global coordination of capital is the truly one undeniable PMF that we have reached in crypto. Obviously it goes out of hand too many times, but I guess that comes with the innovation. And on the other hand, science is becoming more and more dependent on credentialism, on politics and state, on power, and it's mostly bureaucracy, right? It optimizes for things that are not aligned with rapid scientific progress, as it over optimizes for like internal hierarchy and internal politics. So crypto is perfect because it kind of like helps to swing the pendulum back to the DeSci side. So if you like Nietzsche, it injects the Dionysian into this over-fragilized, overextended bureaucracy on autopilot. So to tie it all up, sort of, I've three DeSci theses. And the philosophy, the one that is philosophical, as I've kind of, those are the previous slides in a way, and it's about unbundling science from the academia and from the bureaucracy and government by introducing crypto incentives and means of funding, and I do think that we can also enable scientists as entrepreneurs, tinkerers, instead of grant optimizing bureaucrats. The DeGen one is kind of hopefully unfolding right now. When you think about like biotech stocks, I don't know if you ever like bought any biotech stock, but it's mostly I would say implicit casino. So many people are buying biotech stocks because they're gambling on an outcome of a trial. And I think, why not taking it, a bit sort of earlier? Why not gambling on the research proposal? And in crypto, we like to gamble on many different things, meme coins being some, and speculation is our wedge, and why not bring it into early stage research, and let degens diversify from meme coins into scientific research and development. And the commercial one kind of combines them, where I believe that DeSci can bring science closer to people, closer to the end user. So it's not always, science as this thing that tells me that I'm wrong all the time. But, sort of like scientific endeavor becomes a product that I can buy, that I can own, that I can contribute to. And yeah, it wants to solve a problem. It wants, bring a solution to something, but it's a product that I can buy. And yeah, there are already some practical examples that hopefully will make it easier to understand for you, because it's rather idiosyncratic. But I think meme coins have shown that we can tokenize culture. So culture becomes an asset, it becomes a product. And I believe that this is a part of a sort of like a new commercial shift, where culture is the primary thing you buy into, and everything else is auxiliary. And this is not only in DeSci, but I think it's could be generally applied. And when you think about ETH or Bitcoin or Sol, they're a culture product. They're culture buying most and foremost, in my opinion, because they're all selling block space, right? And there's a plenty of block space to go around, but for some specific reasons, people value this more. But obviously, it's not only a meme, but a meme helps to promote the product. So there's a product vision, and there's a token, right? And people buy the token. So in a sense, token becomes the product, but the token becomes also a form of organization that helps with, I would say 4 things that I deem as the things that tokens enable, which is we talked about rapid global capital formation. Then we have co-creation with attribution, so like social recognition for contribution, and then sort of being able to route the financial value to the point of origin. Then it also aligns incentives, so it creates like a cohesive microeconomic unit, and it could serve as a governance proxy, although if you're crypto native, you know that the governance is one thing that we have not really solved, and probably will never, because it's more of a human nature problem rather than a technological problem. But all of those can hopefully help us to transition from user-generated content that we see on social media to user-generated products. But it all starts with a culture. And just a little bit of data for you who don't know, like Pump.fun is just like a meme coin casino where you can spin a meme coin, and it's I think by the time of writing that article, which is early July, they cashed in like 50 mil, which is quite a lot. And the way I imagine this unfold and DeSci is essentially there's an idea, there's like the R&D that is kind of can be brought to the audience through memes as in like simplified explanation of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And memes help bootstrap liquidity, and then in turn enhances the R&D or the idea, and it goes the other way around. So it's a sort of like a double reflexive flywheel where the R&D actually enables the liquidity, which empowers the memes, because when number goes up, then everyone's interested, and the memes get power or become more powerful, and then the memes explain why we're doing what we're doing, the idea. So on one hand, in DeSci today, we have these bottom-up culture movements that we're funding, and they're developing a specific product. So you can view HairDAO or VitaDAO, or even like a specific research from Newcastle University that you can buy, and you can actually go and buy that specific research on Uniswap if you want, and potentially get the upside that it's affiliated with the success of the IP. But they represent a culture, a brand, and an actual product. Product being supply chain and IP and all of that. So this is sort of like the bottom up part of it, and now, these days actually, we're in DeSci we're launching. I don't know if you're familiar with BioXYZ. The auction is still going on. Actually, it's a bit more because these slides are from like Sunday or something, so it's progressing a little bit more. But this is a bit more top-down side of things. So we're trying to inject liquidity into the the bottom-up that we've seen emerge, and I think this can unleash this liquidity can kickstart this reflexive momentum that I've mentioned before, and what it essentially does is enables crypto degens to and hopefully then more wider public to bet on BioDAOs and their future breakthroughs. So it enables people to diversify from meme coins, and it also hopefully, because this is a essential part of it, it attracts and inspires scientific endeavors and more people, more scientists and thinkers to build on the DeSci rails. And if this works, then we're going to create a huge reflexive momentum and get like our first DeSci hype, hopefully. I just want my backs to go up. So to tie this all up, hopefully, to make a bit more sense is, I think that with DeSci we can bundle science into products, that have their memes, culture, or their icon, and then bootstrap liquidity for through crypto to fund a certain promise. That it's essentially moving on from like the influencer era icon to sort of like a more community, the UGP side of things, and maybe science is done best when it has a commercial angle, rather than it's just like a showcasing glory, virtue, or unfortunately ideology. There's I was inspired by Nick Szabo's article from like early 2000s, where he was comparing the Chinese fleet of 15th century that was glorious, that is huge vessels, but it was only to display the emperor's glory, whereas it was totally beaten by Portuguese entrepreneurial and commercial vessels that were much smaller than the fleet was much smaller, the individual ships were much smaller, but it became a very profitable empire for the Portuguese, whereas Chinese were like, no one even knows about their naval fleet. It was glorious, but it was just a frontier as a PR, whereas Portuguese went pay-as-you-go route, and it was, and I think that this is the way exploration should work, and whether it's exploring science or exploring new territory, which is essentially almost the same thing. I do think that injecting crypto, injecting commerce with through crypto into science can help us accelerate scientific progress again. So yeah, that's it, and yeah, thank you. If people want to ask questions, I guess we have some time.
First, please, again, a round of applause to Matt. Someone has a question? Okay.
Hey, hi, thank you. I'm a big fan of C Capital. Love the memes. And I was wondering what brought you here to Argentina, if there's anything you see potential in emerging markets regarding science, given that here we have great human capital. And yeah.
Yeah, so it's a serendipity that brings me here. Like 2 months ago or so, I was invited to a dinner in Lisbon, and I met someone from Protocol Labs who was like talking about crecimiento in Argentina. And I was kind of intrigued by I'm not going to lie, by your anarcho-capitalist president. So it kind of all sort of added up, and I wanted to come and explore. And also, I'm tired of the the generic crypto conferences. So I thought, coming to a more niche one, coming to a place that I haven't been before, was just like a great idea. I've been I don't want to say bullish, but I've been exploring sort of the idea of let's say investing in South America. But I was thinking about Uruguay and Argentina as a potential place to like Z Prime is mostly in Europe, but we're thinking, okay, maybe we can have another HQ somewhere else on a different continent. And with what's happening in Europe politically, I kind of feel that maybe sailing west, it's could be a good exit strategy at some point. So yeah, it was curiosity driven, I would say, and this was a great sort of opportunity to come.
Thank you. And else, we put everything here in place, but we've had some trouble like incentivizing scientists to actually show up, and it seems that they are a little bit conservative, and it's hard for them to jump onto a new, smaller, risky ship. I'm wondering what ways we can incentivize traditional scientists to be onboarded onto this side and take more risk.
Well, maybe it's like with Bitcoin, right? It wasn't the bankers that were the first to adopt it. Like they're just coming in now, right now, or maybe a cycle or two ago, but they weren't there in 2011, right? Very few came. So crypto, Bitcoin, and then ETH kind of redefined what a banker means, and who like Degen is a banker of sorts, right? Like it's a I know that people, most people wouldn't agree with the definition, but I would say crypto enabled, or as I was talking about, like extended certain privileges through technology that enabled almost anyone to become a banker. Like whether that's good or not, we can talk about it, but maybe that's not the target audience. Maybe the scientists are not the target audience as the bankers were in for Bitcoin or early ETH. Yeah, maybe we should redefine who the scientists can be, right? Like maybe it doesn't have to be someone with a PhD, right? Because usually the frontier doesn't happen through like 10 years of accreditation, but crypto is a frontier because you can learn how to code, and you can build Uniswap that in a couple of years becomes like a multi-billion dollar business, right? So it's just, the frontier is very close. Whereas in science, we always say, oh, you need to get this PhD, you need to get that. And yesterday we had a talk on paternalism. So, you cannot just do science, right? So I do think that it's less about attracting the old school scientists and more about enabling, sort of new minds become, like this new era scientists. Although, yeah, I guess science requires some knowledge, but I'm sure there are very few people on specific subreddits that might have huge knowledge domain without having a PhD. So.
Someone else has another question. Okay. First, I have a question for you. Can you give us an advice? Because yesterday I have a conversation with another scientist, and we were talking about the big challenge of make a business model, because we cannot live about grants. We need to find a way to receive money of science. So, can you provide us an advice for, I don't know, communities or projects that they want to focus in basic science, but they need to make profit. Do you get my point?
So you're asking whether there's a sort of like a template business model for DeSci projects?
Yes, a kind of advice.
Yeah.
Don't live about grants.
So I do think that I'm not a big fan of grants, or I do like the market. I mean, I do understand public goods and everything, like their market failures. Skeptical of advice though, but I would say that I think we haven't nailed it. Generally in crypto, not only in DeSci, whether they're like I think that if you have a valuable product and you want to sort of like bootstrap capital globally, crypto can help in that. And then if you have an IP and that IP is making money, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with distributing value to token holders, right? So I think simple is better, but I think that if that's what I said, you have to bundle your science with a product. It cannot just be for the sake of science. Like maybe some solutions are very hard to productize and commercialize, but I think with crypto, as I said, culture becomes a product. So you maybe don't even have to sell a product. You just come up with something great, and the mimetic premium of the token that is attached to this breakthrough can lead to sort of years and years and years of funding, right? So it's not like Vitalik is getting gas money in his pocket, right? Like if he and the foundation made money, it was appreciation of a token. It wasn't like people paying him the gas money, as one influencer suggested. But yeah. So I don't believe that there's a clear sort of a template. I think it's going to be unique for every project. But if you believe that you can achieve a scientific breakthrough, then try to think a way how to productize it. And if not, launch a meme that is attached to it, and build a foundation.
Yes, I have a question. How I do carry on this idea of commercial science to a traditional scientist, to my professor of physics, chemistry, my PhD director, etc. ¿Cómo llevo esa idea?
Yeah. Well, it's similar to what been asked before. Is that maybe you don't have to get them on board, right? It's like with the bankers, right? They got too late on the Bitcoin wave, right? And now they're packaging it and selling it as ETF. So maybe this. I'm not saying that don't try to convince them or don't try to sort of get them on the DeSci wave, but I don't think they're the right audience. I think the better audience are, I don't know, you go to university or something right now. Yeah. So it's not about those guys. It's about your classmates. It's about your peers, right? Or those people that are just working on their PhD. It's those that are probably better target audience. And those that are not necessarily sort of entrenched in this academic political situation, if you will. And I don't think that there's a way you can change someone's mind. I guess they have to be naturally curious and they have to see the problems in their field. If they don't see it or they're blind to them, there's a bigger question of whether there is enough scientific progress in recent years, and I'm in the camp. I mean, this is I think made famous or propagated by Peter Thiel, and I do subscribe to that idea that the progress has been slowing down because we have very domain-specific progress in like IT, if you will, but I mean, we're traveling at slower speeds, right? Like Concorde has been decommissioned. And outside of like the virtual space, not much has changed in the physical space. Like we're still riding the same inefficient public transportation that we have, like 50, 100 years ago. So if they don't see the problem, if they don't see or they don't deem science not producing enough, then it's very hard to convince them. But if you come from that position of like, oh yeah, we need more technological progress or scientific progress in general, like have we cured cancer? We have not, right? And I think it was promised in the 70s when I think it was Nixon declared war on cancer, and in 10 years we're gonna solve, cure cancer, and it's always 10 years away, right? It's almost like AI, AGI is always 10 years away. Yeah, if they don't see the problem, it's going to be hard to convince them. So I would go for the younger people, people that are trying to become scientists. So maybe they just become degens, and yeah.
Hey, Maddie. Hi,
Hey.
my name is Nico. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very insightful.
Thank you.
I have two questions. The first is, for those of us that are tokenomics fanatics and we like to look into it, is there any structure that you found in recent times that has appealed to you? Like, for example, you have founders from Year in Finance, right, that eventually, they lose incentives to continue creating, right, and innovating. And the second is, I really like the concept of governance issues that we see in our sector, right? I think that's something worth expanding a bit more, and if you could do that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I think, so in terms of tokenomics, as in how do you fund like evolution of a protocol, for example, like, like ETH, the majority of the, wealth or value has been distributed early, and now the people are all gone, right, and doing Polkadot and stuff. Yeah, I remember I was reading, it was like back in 18, I was reading this blog post by Fred Ursum, who then went on and found Paradigm. Actually, he's doing something with, something crazy in science. Actually, he kind of left crypto, I think. Anyways, and he was like talking about like how do you fund the evolution of protocols, and it's hard, and I, like it, but it's same with companies, right? Like you have co-founders, right, that start a company together, and in 2 years, the other one is just like smoking pot and slacking, and the other one is building a company. You cannot just take, the other guy's shares. Well, you have to buy them out. Like even us as investors, we've seen instances of something like that, right? Even it wasn't a token; it was equity in a company, and I'm not sure if it can be solved. Maybe it can. Maybe you can have like dynamic emission based on sort of economic expansion of a protocol. I think, like Olympus DAO had that kind of, we were pretty early in Olympus DAO, and like our sort of like, early investors, our tokens were getting minted based on, how big the economy of Olympus DAO was growing. So I think this is interesting if you can, I remember there were efforts, it was like OS Coin, in 2018, they became Radical, which is like a different project, but they wanted to start with like open source coin, which was supposed to like look at dependencies and GitHub repos, and sort of like kind of like through like PageRank like algorithm kind of route the value to people who were like contributing a lot on GitHub and that type of thing. I think it's potentially over-engineered, but it's interesting. So yeah, I don't have a good answer to like how can we continue. But I mean, look at ETH. Like, do they have problem? Not really. They always sell the top, right? They have enough money to continue funding it, and everything is going great. So I guess if you have something that is worth developing further, you will always find money to do so. I guess whether the distribution is fair or not, to be discussed. But in terms of governance, the same thing. I don't. Do we have better governance in crypto than you have? I think it's than you have like in companies and stuff. I think to me it's going to be the same thing. Essentially, I think that most governance is terrible, not in crypto, but generally. And then you have sort of certain outliers that are able to govern themselves efficiently. I think the more people participate, the sort of like worse outcomes, it seems like, right? Yeah, it's just, I don't feel like there's a that we have like a great kind of example in crypto where we manage. I mean, I think Polkadot can't do anything without governance, right? So it's we haven't solved that issue, but maybe maybe in the future. But I don't really think that it's something that needs to be solved. We'll see.
Un aplauso para Matt.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.